Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brian at Whisper Status 74. Welcome to the community. Welcome to the channel. If this is the first time you were seeing me, please consider liking and subscribing. We are real tech for real people. Today's video is going to be about the new consoles, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, and a discussion of the botched launch and the shortage and all that entails. And I want to know if you guys went out and got these consoles. Did you wait in line? Did you do the gambling of in and out of the shopping carts for this console? What did you do to get one? Did you sell out to get these consoles? Are they worth it? Well, I'll tell you the main reason I didn't bend or compromise myself for these consoles, the main reason I didn't sell out is very simple, is I couldn't find them anyplace.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
You got to have some fun with it. Anyway, this video or this conversation is about those two new consoles and are they necessary for you to pick up right now? There is such a difference in technology between want and need. We don't really need them. I don't really need them, but I'd be kidding you if I say I didn't want them. Console launches to me are always fun and nerve-wracking. There's always a lack of excitement and then crazy excitement, then there's a letdown, and the last couple launches have been interesting. And the reason why I want to talk about this one today is I really do feel like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X were actually in a pretty good place in terms of delivering pretty good visuals and performance. Now, the Series X was one that I definitely wanted. I wanted to play Modern Warfare with HDR and Dolby Atmos. I can play that on my PC, but I don't really have the Atmos support. PC doesn't really have that good in terms, as good as the Xbox, I should say. I was looking forward to playing that. I wanted to play the new Black Ops Cold War at 4K, 120. But that game alone, and some of the other games that I've seen on Digital Foundry and talking to some friends that have both consoles, it's been interesting to hear their thoughts. I'm giving you the unique perspective of somebody that doesn't have them. I know that they're not available. I know the whole thing has been a little bit of a nightmare, but which console am I looking for? So the Series X, for me, being a PC gamer, we'll start there. Being a PC gamer, with Game Pass, just about every campaign that I play that is available on the Xbox and the PC the last 4 or 5 years, I've played on PC. 4K, 60, max settings. I've always preferred the look of PC, how clean it is, the anti-aliasing, the ability to change the settings to make it look as clean as you want and run as fast as you possibly can. Xbox being fixed, I don't play any of the games or campaigns on Xbox. Now, there's been some difference with that. Say something like Halo has HDR on Game Pass, doesn't have it on PC, and other games vice versa. Now, I have a Dolby Atmos receiver. The games on Atmos work flawlessly on the Xbox. They don't work flawlessly on PC. It sometimes down mixes to surround. It's not true Atmos. So you want a little bit of everything if you can. The PS4 Pro and PlayStation in general has always been the place to play exclusives. It's always been the console that does what it wants. Doesn't try to copy PC, doesn't try to copy anything. It does its own thing. You're only recently starting to see some games trickle to PC like Horizon Zero Dawn. But for the longest time, it's the only place to play those titles. Uncharted, Spider-Man, Last of Us, the Ratchet & Clank, Ghost of Tsushima. The list goes on and on and on. With PC and Xbox, to me, they are really one and the same. The Xbox Series X, to me, is basically a Steam box for those of you that remember those. Now, does that mean that I wouldn't want one? No, quite the contrary. I'd love to purchase an Xbox Series X if I could actually find one. I did not try hard enough to locate them. I did a video in early February about the possible cancellation or shortage when everything happened early February when this crisis first started. And I knew they would either be canceled or short, and they are very short. I did a very serious video on that earlier. This is not going to be one of those videos. This is going to be about the want and the need. Many of you are going to be tempted to pay $800 to $1,000 for these new consoles. I actually would be willing to pay a little bit more for one of them, but not for both of them. Being an Xbox fan from the original Xbox and loving the 360, I very much disliked the Xbox One when it first launched. So why I tell you that is that my brand loyalty is limited. My favorite launch of all time was probably the Sega Dreamcast on 9/9/99. I pre-ordered that way many years ago at Toy Works in Connecticut. And the reason I bring it up is that launch, there was a clear divide in quality. The Soul Calibur on the Sega Dreamcast, for those of you that remember, was far and away one of the best looking games ever made. And it was actually one of the first games that blew away its arcade counterpart, which was a huge deal because the Soul Calibur in the arcade was gorgeous. And what I did at that time was run Soul Calibur in one room on my CRT Trinitron, and then in the other room I ran Soul Blade, which was a PS1 game, and it was night and day. They were absolutely a clear leap. And I think that's kind of been the issue with these new consoles, is many of you are expecting this huge graphical leap, as my HUD burns into my screen, a huge graphical leap in terms of quality. And I think some of you are very underwhelmed. And this is my thoughts on it, and that's what this video is kind of all going to be about. I enjoyed Modern Warfare on Xbox One X. I also enjoyed it on the PS4 Pro. Very good looking game in some ways. A little bit washed out, had kind of a watercolor look to it, but at the same time it was very realistic looking. So I more than anything wanted to play Series X, Black Ops Cold War, play that campaign. But I want to touch on the marketing. Dolby Atmos. I recently have a Dolby Atmos receiver. I recently have 4 height channel speakers, so I want to play that. Even though I've had, or I would have that campaign on the Xbox One X, I do want it on the Series X. Playing Black Ops, however, it is not a good-looking title. The campaign is absolutely gorgeous, but I'd be playing it on the Series X primarily in multiplayer. So the Xbox, for me, being a PC gamer, I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm not a keyboard guy. I play multiplayer on the Series X or Xbox One X with buddies of mine. And that game would probably be the only one that I would seek out. Everything else I would still probably purchase on PC. So that makes the Xbox Series X a weird purchase. In terms of, it's not a huge leap. Ray tracing is something that I definitely want to check out. So for me, the Xbox Series X would be a cheaper PC, like I said, a Steam box, to give me ray tracing and to give me a little bit of a graphical jump and be able to give me the streamlined ability of a console. If you have an Xbox One or an Xbox One S, I think the leap to the Series X is enormous, and it's definitely worth checking out because the Xbox One X at launch was jaw-dropping. Having Gears of War 4 and Forza Horizon almost look amazing overnight. They did update those games later on. They updated Battlefield. But keep in mind that even though these games are supported and they do have updates, they're not going to turn every old 360 title into PC quality. I shot a video, or at least a picture, of Black Ops 1 on the PC, and there were some comments on that post saying, oh, my Series X is going to blow that away, and that's not going to be the fact. You're going to see some emulation, you're going to see some up conversion, but do not expect every game in the Xbox catalog to look amazingly better. I do see some videos where people are running games like Dead Space. They're running really old titles. What's supposed to be a Series X. Those are clearly PC games running 4K 60 or 4K 120. Those are not 360 titles. So to me, I don't believe that. But the Series X has definitely taken a backseat from me in terms of which console I would want. It reminds me very much of the Xbox One launch. And again, I'm all over the place. That's the way I film. The Xbox One launch and the PS4 launch. I remember Ghosts was available. It was available on 360. It was available on the Xbox One. And they were nearly identical. There wasn't a huge difference between two. That's kind of the problem with consoles these days, and even with PC being dragged into it. You can't have these huge leaps. Even something like Cyberpunk is going to have to still have its insides attached to last generation. Until you can see games that actually utilize the hardware 100% and they're exclusive, they're not going to be necessary for a while. If you can still play the new Spider-Man on PS4 Pro, it's going to look pretty good. Just like Black Ops campaign looks really good on the Xbox One X. So the question is, which one would you have to go out and buy? The answer is none of them. You don't have to purchase any of them until they have exclusive content for each one. And unfortunately, due to the don't alienate anybody thought process, which is a good one, by the way, you won't see that pull away. Now, for many of you, including myself, the Series X and the PS4 or PS5, are they going to be, or I should say, are they obsolete already? Are they super powerful? Obviously, PC is already going to blow them away. There's no question. The new RTX cards, the new AMD cards, you're going to see them pull away rather quickly. But keep in mind that consoles, while they may appear underpowered right now, say something like Gears 4 is not full 60. You're seeing a lot of dynamic resolution where they fluctuate. They're not running clean. There is some jaggy still. Those are just upconverted titles that they've kind of redone and they've updated. But when you see something like the new Spider-Man on PS5, something that seems like it was made for that console, it looks quite a bit better. But until you see these consoles have something that was built for them, you'll never see what they're actually capable of. So that's something that is worth waiting for if you have the other consoles right now, which makes it a little bit of a concern should I purchase one. If I purchase the Xbox Series X, there are a couple titles that I might run that are tough on the PC. So I have something like Metro Exodus, which was a very hard game on PC. I'd love to see the Series X run that. But is that a game that's really been updated or patched to make it look better than PC? I highly doubt that's the case right now. So the Series X is not something I'm as interested in. What does intrigue me is the PlayStation 5. I do feel like PlayStation has always kind of done their own thing. They have no desire to be a PC. They have no desire to copy anyone else. They do their own thing and make you follow them. Meaning things like Horizon Zero Dawn is the first game that's on PC, but those other games, Horizon Zero Dawn, Last of Us, they're Ratchet and Clank, Ghost of Tsushima, all these other games that I mentioned earlier are exclusives. So exclusives are the reason I would purchase a PS5. I have played campaigns, exclusive content on the PS4 and the PlayStations over the years. The 360 and the Xbox One have been my multiplayer machines. And then once I got a PC, my PC campaigns and 360 games like that were played on the PC. The PS4 got its campaign use, but the Xbox One was kind of the one that was left out of it because it's basically a PC or an underpowered PC, depending on whenever you're talking about them. So for me, the PS5 is infinitely more attractive. The Spider-Man game, I rather pay that on the updated version here because I know it's patched specifically for the PS5. It's not just upconverted. So the PS5 to me is probably the most attractive. Also, I would play the new Spider-Man game on there, and I am looking for their exclusives. But right now, I do find both consoles to be a little bit underwhelming, which is something that you can say from a hater standpoint because I don't have them. But I'm pretty certain if I had them both, I would tell you that you could probably wait for some exclusive content. What I find fascinating is years ago with games like Crysis and some other games that were made specifically for PC, you could see how amazing those games can look. But being anchored to the consoles, they cannot pull away. Years ago, even games like Quake, Doom 3, these other games that looked amazing, they just let the consoles figure out the best way to port them. Now, for business, they have to make them able to run on them all, which limits them all. Right now, the PS4, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are still limited because of the Xbox One, the Xbox One S, and the Xbox One X. The PS5 is also limited to the PS4 Pro. It's being limited by the PS4. And that's kind of the issue. Now, would you still buy them? Absolutely. I'd love to see them. I love new hardware. I want to get my hands on them. But I want you to temper your expectations of what they will be. I will take a PC all day in terms of its quality. But keep in mind, the graphics card's a few $1,000s if you're buying the highest end. And so, again, I should redo that. They're not a few $1,000s. Depends on which one you want. You can build a PC for the same price as these consoles. But my whole thought process for me, and that's what I'm sharing here, I am just you. I am not a professional YouTuber, whatever. I'm not paid or anything. My thing is the PS5 is the one that I want, because I think that's the one that looks the best right now. That's the one where even just that one title of Spider-Man and the upconverted or redone Spider-Man from a couple of years ago, I would love to see those on my new display. Now, I want to touch really quickly, and we've talked about this even before the consoles launch, on HDMI 2.1. Now, we knew that these consoles were not going to come near 4K 120. I've had this battle in the comments many, many times. People have told me they're going to do 8K. They're going to do this. You guys that aren't PC people, not part of that crew. You have no idea how expensive 4K 60 is, let alone how expensive ray tracing is. When ray tracing was first announced on these RTX cards, you had to choose between 4K 60 or 1080p ray tracing. It was very hard to do both. Now they have figured it out. They've made that much less expensive. But adding ray tracing, you're seeing some games that are going to do ray tracing at 1080p or 4K. You're seeing a lot of games at 4K 30. 4K 120 is not really feeling all that smooth. Now, me having a LG CX-C10, I have HDMI 2.1. I'd love to use 4K 120 at some point. I'll probably have it on PC first. I can already use it with DisplayPort, with the club adapter. I already have that. But my point is, these consoles are not what they're going to be. They won't be that for many, many years. That's the best part about consoles. While even PC people might say they're obsolete out of the gate, consoles are always and truly evolving. They're never the same as they were at launch. The 360, the Xbox One, I remember the 360 had those blades back in the day. They're going to be totally different. They evolve, they change. So there is, if you feel underwhelmed by them, they will not appear this way down the road. They will infinitely be better. I'm big fans of both of them. But for me, if I could choose one right now, honestly, it would be the PS5. I am out there looking for them actively. I'm not going to pay a few $1,000s for them. I'm not going to pay $1,000 for them. But in all honesty, if I had to hang back and use the PC, use the Xbox One X, especially for a game like Black Ops. I'll do a separate video on Black Ops. Its multiplayer is so basic and looks so basic. It's like GoldenEye, the way it moves. I would have been a little upset if I had bought the Series X for that specific title. Now, you're going to say it's ridiculous to buy a console for a specific title. Well, I digress. I'd buy the PS5. Or I should say I disagree. I'd buy the PS5 for Spider-Man, just to have that game on this panel. We buy all this technology. But for me, the consoles, all consoles at launch, since my Dreamcast, maybe the Xbox 360 with Call of Duty, Project Gotham Racing, seeing those in HD, they were absolutely stunning. But I think we're at the point now where the visuals on the PS4 Pro, the visuals on the Xbox One X were quite good. And the gulf between them is just not going to show up for a while. And it's not because these consoles can't do it. It's because they have to share the same library. So even if Halo Infinite did release on the Xbox, you were going to see an Xbox One X version. It's kind of hard to say, but back in the day, you would have exclusive titles. Soul Calibur was an exclusive. Sonic, Mario 64, they were exclusive. You had to buy that console for that game. And that game was a showcase. That has been lost. That is no longer. The PS4, you should have had like a Last of Us 2 only on the PS5 to make it that much more attractive. So I like that they don't leave anybody behind, but the challenge is you keep these consoles from showing what they can really do. And unfortunately, by the time they show you what they can really do, PC is going to have 2 or 3 more graphics cards that are going to pull that divide apart. So for me, at the end of this random, ranting, funny, weird video, I have a PC that can do 4K 60 at pretty high settings. I have HDR. I have all these consoles, but for me, the PS5 would be the one that I would want, that if I can get my hands on. But the constant in and out of the carts on websites and the fact that I can't buy them in store, I do not have the time to sit there and try to win one online or go purchase it from some shady person on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. So chances are I will wait. I do like them both, but for me, PS5 is the console that I would want. What console is the one that you would want? Or are you tempted to build a PC? And a lot of you guys are starting to buy pre-made PCs from many of these other companies that are actually pretty sick. They look amazing. They have all quality parts. What is it that you are looking for? I will tell you, as a PC person, as much as I love PC, the ability to just hit play and turn them on and go is something that I love. Like I mentioned with the Xbox, having Dolby Atmos right there, HDR right there, I'm not jumping in and out of Windows trying to figure it out, is something that I would love. So for me, a Series X would actually be a little bit of a stopgap for me updating my graphics card. Having a 1080 Ti, I don't have ray tracing, so I'd get ray tracing. But I don't want ray tracing at 1080p. I can't play 1080p at this size. This TV is too large. Does not. 1440p doesn't look good on it. So that is my video there. Really quick, what I also want to touch on is the PS5 not having variable refresh rate and not having like Dolby Atmos is interesting because a lot of you guys wanted TVs that support those. You're better still to have those than not, I believe. Yet if you have 4K 60, you're still covered. But what I want to say about the PS5, in terms of the way they make games, they are so good at their games, how they make them. But it just shows you that chasing the marketing of 8K, 4K 120, we have to wait till that stuff is here. And that's kind of the issue with what they promised. You know, Dolby Atmos, 4K 120, 8K is actually on the box. And these things cannot do that just yet. So let me know in the comments which consoles you would want. Have you spent an inordinate amount of money? Do you have them already? If you have them already, do you disagree with me? Tell me in the comments that you absolutely love them. Tell me if it blows away your PC. Which games are you playing? Have you seen a huge divide or a huge difference from the other consoles? Let me know in the comments. You'll see more videos like this. I love TVs. I love all of it. We get back to these discussion videos. You'll see more live streams. We're at 18 minutes. I'll cut this one. But both consoles, PS5 would be the one that I would want. I'd love like a Killzone trilogy update. That would be awesome. All right, guys. Love you guys. I'll see you in the comments. Take care.